This video is brought to you by Ridge Wallet, a slim front pocket wallet available in carbon fiber and titanium. With more than 250,000 sold, a lifetime guarantee and free shipping, get 10% off with the code GOLDFISH at ridgewallet.com. Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So as you know, Wednesday means it's Wildcard Wednesday here in Instant Deck Tech Land, and this week we are heading to Legacy for a deck that I just had to show off because it is super duper wild. I know. Some people are going to be mad because the deck is absurdly expensive. $7,000, which is just insane, although 400 ticks on Magic Online, so on Magic Online it's not that bad, but yes, it's ridiculously expensive because it has a reserve list card as a 3 of that's like $1,500 for the 3 copies, plus it's got some original dual lands, but still, the deck is so sweet, I felt like I just had to show it off, and we're calling this one the Rectory, and it comes to us from Bitter Bowler, who took it to a 5-0 finish in a competitive Legacy League on Magic Online, so congrats to Bitter Bowler on a super sweet deck. And a quick reminder before we break down the Rectory for Legacy. If you enjoy this deck and you'll want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So the Rectory is sort of like a Nick Fit style deck. We played the Nick's Fit or Curse deck before, and this deck has some similarities, but it takes advantage of a new card that adds a ton of spice to the deck. So kind of the key card of this deck is Veteran Explorer. And you probably heard me talk about it before. It's a really weird, cool ramp spell. So 1 mana you get a 1/1, but when it dies, each player can tutor for 2 basic lands, put them into play untapped, and that's kind of the big plan of our deck. In Legacy, some decks don't play many basics anyway, plus we're betting that our basic heavy deck can take better advantage of the extra mana than our opponent's deck, because we got some big expensive things. A lot of Legacy decks are really low to the ground, 1-drop, 2-drop, maybe topping out at 3 or maybe 4 mana for a Jace. So we can take more advantage of the extra lands than our opponent. But we can't just trust that our Veteran Explorer is going to die. So we have a ton of ways to sacrifice it or kill it. So first off, we got a bunch of discard that also doubles as ways to kill our Veteran Explorer. So Thoughtseize, it's just a 1-of in the main deck, doesn't actually count. That's just a discard spell. But Cabal Therapy comes down, names a card for 1 mana, then we can flash it back for no mana by sacking a creature, which is hopefully going to be our Veteran Explorer, or some other creatures we'll talk about in a minute. So this gives us a way to name like a Force of Will that would ruin our day, or a Graveyard Hate spell, brutal against this deck, so get rid of the Graveyard Hate spell. Collective Brutality might not be obvious, but if we escalate it, we can duress our opponent and also give a creature -2/-2, which doesn't have to be our opponent's creature. That could be our Veteran Explorer to let us tutor up the lands. So those are some of the ways we kill our Veteran Explorer. We also have 1 Evolutionary Leap and 2 Phyrexian Towers. So Evolutionary Leap, super sweet in our deck. We have a total of 3 different creatures, so we have a lot of control over what we're getting. We're getting a Veteran Explorer or 1 of 2 other creatures, and again, we'll talk about those in a minute. Plus, it's a way to sack our stuff. Phyrexian Tower does like double ramping. We sack Veteran Explorer, we get 2 mana from Phyrexian Tower, plus we're getting the lands untapped from Veteran Explorer. So what are we ramping into? And here is the Rectory part of the deck. So Academy Rector, you've seen it before. We played it in the Nick's Fit deck. When it dies, you can exile it from the game, and you get to tutor for an enchantment, put it directly into play. But we don't just have Academy Rector, we also have the new version from Battlebond, Arena Rector. So 4 mana 1/2, when it dies, you get to exile it if you want to, and tutor for a Planeswalker and put it directly into play. So one quick thing to mention, Deathrite Shaman was brutal against these cards because of how the exile worked. The Rector goes to the graveyard, and your opponent can exile it in response to you exiling it and fizzle the ability. So these cards get a lot better with Deathrite Shaman out of the format, but these are the foundation of our deck. We ramp into them with Veteran Explorer. We have all those Cabal Therapies and Phyrexian Towers and Collective Brutalities and all those sacrifice effects. Evolutionary Leap even better because we're sacking 1 to get another one, and then we just tutor out crazy things and win the game. So let's start with Academy Rector. So with Academy Rector, kind of combo 1 is we have 3 enchantments, and if we can set them up together, and we can't just ramp into them with our Veteran Explorer lands, But if we can set up Overwhelming Splendor, Cursed Deathhold, and Dovescape, we essentially just lock our opponent out of the game. So Overwhelming Splendor makes all of our opponent's stuff lose their activated abilities, plus it makes all of our opponent's creatures into 1/1s. Cursed Deathhold gives all creatures enchanted player controls -1/-1. So just Overwhelming Splendor plus Curse of Deathhold hard locks creatures out of the game. Then, if we get Dovescape too, it makes it so whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, it gets countered, and that player gets a bunch of 1/1 bird tokens. But if we got Curse of Deathhold, that's locking spells out of the game too. The spell gets countered, they become birds, the birds die to Curse of Deathhold. So we can lock our opponent out of the game with that package. Then for finishing the game, we have Sandworm Convergence, just making massive things every turn. Maybe we can shut down some flyers if our opponent's on Lingering Souls or Delver, but mostly just making a 5/5 worm every turn. And then Cruel Reality, once we have creatures locked out of the game, our opponent basically has to just take 5 every turn because they can't sacrifice a creature. So that means over the course of a few turns, our opponent's just going to die to the Cruel Reality. We also have a couple of other options. Omniscience is pretty hilarious because we can just cast all of our curses. If we have our Sandworm Convergences and so forth in hand, we can just tutor up Omniscience and be like, all right, we'll just like hard cast all our huge stuff. Sylvan Library, just for value to draw some extra cards if we need it. So that's the Academy Rector plan. But remember, the interesting part of this deck is we also have Arena Rector. So what are we getting with Arena Rector? So if the enchantment plan isn't going to work, we can just throw Haymaker Planeswalker after Haymaker Planeswalker at our opponent's face until they die. So card liberated, Ugin Spirit Dragon, you probably know what they do from Modern. And remember, in our best draws, we can like play our Veteran Explorer on turn 1, on turn 2 play a Rector and even sacrifice it, and then all of a sudden we are going to town with Karns on turn 3, Ugins, Nicol Bolas's, either one on turn 3, which is insanely powerful. So Karn attacks hands, attacks permanents, wins us a game. Ugin deals damage, exiles all of our opponent's stuff, eventually ultimates and win the game. Nicol Bolas, the God Pharaoh, grinds out value and kills things and exiles our opponent's hand. Nicol Bolas Planeswalker, one of my favorite Forgotten Bolas is, just blows up our opponent's land Karn style while plussing instead of minusing, steals creatures if we need to, and then eventually just wrecks our opponent. So all of these are cards that can win the game on their own, especially if we're getting them on turn 3 with the help of Arena Rector. And then a card that adds some really weird art and $1,500 to the price tag, but a lot of spice to the deck, which is Eureka. So Eureka is, in all that kind of muddled text, what it basically does is you cast it for 4 mana. When it resolves, players just get to put all their permanents into play. Anything you want. So opponent, they're going to be like, all right, Delver of Secrets. And we're like, all right, our turn now. How about Nicol Bolas? And then our opponent's going to be like, okay, Batter Skull. And we're going to be like, all right, how about Sandworm Convergence? So basically, we cast this, we get to just dump all of our Rectors, all of our Planeswalkers, all of our enchantments, Veteran Explorers lands into play for free. Sure, our opponent's getting it too, but odds are we are beating them no matter what's in their hand. Even if they have an Emrakul, we put a card into play and exile it. So it's almost unbeatable, assuming we have a handful of our big stuff. When we resolve this, even though it's symmetrical, we are going to get more value out of it. Otherwise, in the mana base, I'm not going to talk about every land. It's basically a lot of expensive legacy lands. Ancient Tomb, one special land, adds some extra mana, ramps into our stuff. Windswept Heath and some other fetch lands, a bunch of the original duels, a lot of basics for Veteran Explorer, and then we have Living Wish. So Living Wish is one of the wish cycle. This one grabs a creature or a land from our sideboard. So tutoring from our sideboard to our hand, which allows us to find things that are good in specific matchups. So land-wise, this is our sideboard now. We can find Cavern of Souls to put on Cleric, which makes our Rectors uncounterable if we gotta fight through Force of Wills. Karakas can bounce opposing Emrakuls and Grizzlebrands. Another Phyrexian Tower if we really need a sack outlet. The one Tabernacle, really good against go wide decks because our opponent probably can't pay the upkeep. Then we can get some creatures. We have one of each Rector in the sideboard, so an additional way to find our Rectors because they're so important to our deck. Emrakul, we can tutor it up if we have Omniscience and just hard cast it and win the game that way. Rexage for graveyard hate primarily, but any artifacts or enchantments. And then for non-Living Wish shootable stuff, couple more Thought Seizes, Leyline of the Void for graveyards against Dredge and whatnot. And that is the Rectory for Legacy, and that's been our Instant Deck Tech for today. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.